Okay, so here is another impromptu video. That's a wrap-up video for Class 101 Fabric Prints, which is part of the Making Custom Fabric series that I'm doing at Builders Brewery in Second Life. Now, I'm not going to go over the whole class in this video. I'm just going to go over the exercises. Some of them we finished, some of them we didn't finish. So I'm going to go over those visually. And if you want to get the complete class notes, you have to catch the class. So for those who were in the class and have the class files, we're going to start with the first exercise, which means you need to open up pattern 1. Which is a GIMP file. And then you want to go ahead and save a copy of this to the file. Save as. And I used pattern 1 backup. You can name it whatever you want. And then you can go to Control A to select the whole image, but mine is already selected, as you can see by the marching ants, as they call it. The moving dash line tells me that I have this selected already. I'm going to go ahead and open my layers window. It's closed right now. So now back to the file. I want to copy all that's visible. Okay. I can go here to edit, copy visible. Note that it has a hotkey, Shift Control C. You can use that instead. And then I want to paste the new pattern. Paste is simple as a new pattern. So I'm going to go to Edit, Paste as, New Pattern. I'm going to give it some random name. I don't remember if I mentioned this in the question video, but if you give your new pattern the same name as one that's already in there, sometimes it won't copy. So just make sure you give it a unique name. Then hit OK. I did mention this in the last video. Sometimes that new pattern window where you name it goes automatically down to the taskbar. So if you don't see it, look in the taskbar. So now we have our pattern. So I'm going to minimize this so that I can see all the windows at once. Save myself the headache. File, New. And I'm going to make this 512 by 512. Keeping the powers of 2. Okay. And now I'm going to go to Edit, Fill with Pattern. And there we go. It's just that simple. So we went on in the class to say, okay, what if this tile is too big? We want the symbol smaller. So go back over to your original file. Go to Image, Scale Image. Let's make this 64 by 64. It's already selected. Let's go to Control, Shift, Copy. That copies up the visible. Let's go to Paste as, New Pattern. Get another random name. And now we're going to Fill with Pattern. And there we go. And then you could save this if you want to. I'm going to save as backup file, and you have another pattern that you can reuse if you wanted to. Now we're going to move on to exercise 2, which was more than one symbol overlaps. Clear these out and open pattern 2. So in this one we're going to take 3 different symbols and combine them into one seamless tile. Let's go ahead and get rid of these guides. We don't need them right now. Alright. So first of all, let's make a new file. Let's make it 256 by 256. Then we want to make the background black. We have black here as our foreground color already. So let's go to Edit, Fill with Foreground Color. Now we want to go back to this window. So we're going to activate it by left clicking it. And now we see that we see the layers in this window. So the first layer, oops, layer moved. Okay. The first layer that we want to use is focal symbol. So we're going to click it to activate it. Make sure the eye is on. That means it's visible. We want to make sure the eye is off on these others. So now we want to select all. Copy. You only need to copy it because we only want this one layer. And then we're going to click this to activate it now. Paste it. As you can see, when you click a window, then its layers show up. We want to turn this into a regular layer, so right click, new layer. And now that works well. And let's see. Now we need to go to our second symbol and fix that. So now we want to turn off focal symbol. So click the eye. Activate your second symbol layer. Turn on the eye. So now it's the only one visible. We're going to repeat the steps we did before. We're going to copy it. We're going to activate our new document. We're going to paste it. We're going to turn the floating selection into a regular selection. New layer. Now, notice this yellow dashed border. That's the layer border. This layer isn't going all the way to the edges, which is going to cause a problem with offset. So to make this boundary go all the way out, we're going to use layer to image size. Now the dashed line is on, matches the image, and that's what we want. So now we can go to layer, transform, offset. Now what we're going to do is have it so that this symbol gets split in 4 parts going to the corners of the image. Since this image is 256 by 256, we need half of that number to know how to slice this image in half. So that'll be 128. So we could just put 128 in here if we wanted to. Or we can do it the easier way and just hit this button. This will give you the half on the X and the Y. Make sure wraparound is checked. Then hit offset. And now we're good to go with that. Now we have one more symbol to do. Our tiny flower. So we want to turn off this layer. Okay. Activate the third symbol and then turn it on to visible. Copy. Activate this window, the new window. Paste. Get rid of floating selection by right-clicking, new layer. Here we have the boundary problem again, because we copied from a file that was 128 by 128 into a file that's 256 by 256. So it has maintained the layer border that it had from over here. So let's get rid of that. Right-click, layer to image size. Now everything is grand. Now we need to offset it. Layer, transform, offset. But this time, we don't want to offset it to the 4 corners like we did before. We want to offset this on the x-axis. So we want to put 128 on the x. This is going to make it split horizontally. We want to leave the y to 0. We don't want it moving on the 0 yet. Keep wrap around, then offset. Now let's paste it one more time. Get rid of that floating box. Layer to image size. Layer, transform, offset. Now we want to split it in half on the vertical. So we're going to put 128 in the y. Leave x 0. Should wrap around is checked. Offset. And now we have our tile. But we have a problem. The star in the middle, the focal point, is too small. It's blending in with these other symbols, which are relatively the same size other than this one, but it's just not enough variety here. So let's make this star a little bigger. And yet we have that layer border problem again. Let's get rid of it. Go to layer to image size. Now, wait a minute. Let's not do that just yet. Let's wait on that. Let's scale this layer first. And we're just going to scale this one layer. Go to layer, scale layer. Let's make it 210 by 210. Now, scaling up a rasterized image is just usually a big no-no. You want to avoid it when you can, because it's not vector, so it is scale dependent. You can get pixelation, images won't look crisp. So the only time that you would want to do something like this is when it's an emergency and you're using a work file that is double or more the size that you're going to have for a final image. Okay, so this file size is 256. We're going to have a final image of 64, so we're good and clear there. Okay, but you should still try to avoid it when you can. Now we want to put the borders out. If we would have done it initially, we would have had to have done it twice. So let's just do it once. Layer to image size. Okay, and now we're going to scale down the whole image by going to image, scale image. We're going to make this 64 by 64. Alright. We're going to select all, edit, copy visible, and now we're going to make a new image. Let's say 512 by 512. Let's see, did I, just in case, I'm not sure if I made a new pattern, so let's make sure to go to edit, paste as, new pattern. Name it whatever you want. I'm just going to give it silly names. And now I can go here and edit, fill with pattern. And there we go. There's our seamless pattern. Okay. I believe this is the last one that we did last night. So the next one is the one that everyone missed. So let's open pattern 3. Which is one symbol, but it's stacked. How do you deal with make a stacked symbol? Okay, I'm gonna get rid of these guides here. Okay. Now we're gonna have the black shell active. And then we're going to do Shift Control O to open the offset layer box. Now, this image is 64 by 64, so half of that is 32. Since I only want to cut this in half on the x-axis, I'm going to put 32 here and leave the y as 0. Okay. And now I want to select all. I want to copy visible because I want to copy both of these layers at the same time. Make a pattern. Edit. Paste as new pattern. Whatever. Now let's make a new file. I'll actually just do 256 by 256. You use whatever size you want. Then fill with pattern. Now you have your overlapping stacked pattern. So that's all the seamless ones we did in this class. So after that was done, I wanted to show you guys how to test your tile with a baked texture. So let's give that a try. But first, let's go ahead and color this tile. So I'm going to, let's see, what color do I want to use? I'm going to make the background black. So edit with the foreground color. And then I'm going to make this pink. Go with a girly pink color. Get kind of a light pink here. So make sure you lock that layer by clicking here to lock it. And then you can go fill with foreground color here. Alright. I'm going to make this tile a little bit smaller for cloth. So I'm going to go image, scale image. I'm going to make this 32 by 32. And then I'm going to save as. Because I'm actually going to use this later. I'm going to save it as a target, so I'm just going to name it tile TGA. Okay, because I'm going to use that later for demonstration purposes. Then I'm going to select all, then I'm going to go to visible, just because I didn't do it before. Then I'm going to go to edit, paste as, new pattern. I'm ready. And then now I'm going to open the bake texture. So I have the cloth AO is the file you want to open. This is a bake texture for the cloth, which you can read the class notes that I'm going to send you to refresh your memory on what this is, what an ambient occlusion map is. Alright. So we want to make a new layer on top of this. So we can hit this little button down here to make a new layer. I'm going to leave it with transparency. That's okay. Doesn't really matter. And then we want to edit fill with pattern. So now we have our little pattern in there. But we want to combine this image with this image. But first, let's bring this image up to the top. Okay. But let's hide it for one moment while we add some noise to it. Now, we're going to add a little noise to this pattern, but this is not the preferred way to add texture to a pattern. Later on in the series, I'll go into in-depth about ways of adding believable texture that works much better. But for this beginner class, this very first class, we're going to do the simplistic quickie way and use noise. Just keep in mind this is not the preferred way. So let's go to filters, noise, RGB noise. Okay, I'm going to turn off independent RGB, keep correlated noise off. We're going to make this small. You want it to be subtle, not big at all. Just enough to give a little bit of texture, get rid of monotony. Okay. And now let's turn this back on. And so we want to combine these two images together. And we're going to do that by using the layer mode multiply. So it's going to multiply these two together. So now you see that shading is mixed in with our texture, with our pattern that we made. Okay. I want to save this file as a target or ping or JPEG actually, since it doesn't have transparency. Let's see, I'm going to do target. I'm actually going to append color here. Targeting where's color map. And I'm going to export that. And then I'm going to pause the video and bring this into Second Life to show you. So here we are in Second Life. This is the beta grid I highly recommend testing out your textures on the beta grid so that you don't have to pay for them. You can do your free testing. So, or you can use a third-party viewer like Phoenix, for example, to do testing. Either way, you don't want to pay for testing. So anyway, I'm going to upload my single tile and the cloth AO color. These Sculpty prims here are in the supply box that I gave you within Second Life during the class, so you can just res those to do this test with. So these are some old ones I played with. Let's do it with the different ones. And let's do this with the single tile. Now with the single tile, you're going to have to up the repeatables to whatever you want up to. Let's try 30. Okay. So this is showing you that here's just the plain tile taken into Second Life. You can get close up without much pixelation, but you don't have the ambient occlusion giving depth to the folds. Here you have the ambient occlusion, which gives it some nice depth, but you have to use a big map. So here we're using a 1024 map by 1024, and here we have a very tiny map that will load really quickly. So that's certain things to keep in mind when you're looking at the pros and cons of what to do. Of course, I think the baked version looks better, but you also need to keep in mind that you need to test different sizes. For instance, this is pretty small in scale, so I probably could deal with I could have used a 512 by 512 map here and still got a nice looking cloth. So what I like to do is to save out at different sizes. For instance, I might save it 1024 by 1024, then go to 512 by 512, then 256 by 256, and then compare, zoom in and out and compare. Okay, if I get relatively close, does it still look crisp? So you want to keep that in mind, because the bigger the texture is, the longer it would take to download to someone's viewer. So that's it for this class, and I hope to see you guys at the next class. We talk about micro patterns and adding structure to your fabric. See you later.